Hi guys, it's Claire Matara and I'm speaking from my house in the Amazon area in Peru on the 9th of January 2022. I've been wanting to do this video for a while and somehow it's been a little bit difficult. It's about the Lord's Prayer that we call the Lord's Prayer. I found the Lord's Prayer has been a great help in any difficulty for me. It's been an incredible magical prayer, something that really can shift some mountains if it's done with attention and thoughtfulness. So I went through different versions of it because I always wanted to make sure that when I was praying I actually meant what I said and didn't just mouth words that somebody else had told me to say. But it has a bit of a history, and I start with that because I was working when I was younger. I was in the Roman Catholic Church, and we went to a little church in a little village where we lived for a while I was a teenager, and the choir was extremely boring to me, so I didn't like to go to church. And I said that to my father, and he then said, well, if you think it's so boring, why don't you make some songs and sing, ask if you can perform them. So I did that. I talked to the leaders of the church there, and I was given a space, and we did it with a small group. The core of it was my own family. My brother was the guitarist, and I was a guitarist, and we did some singing and music. And there were very soon it became a youth choir, which grew to about 50 members. I was only around 19, so it was a touch much to handle for me, but it was incredibly successful. The choir had their nose out of joint and wanted us to change to they wanted their spot back on at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. So then the powers that be gave us the spot on Saturday night, which was normally not a night for us to go to church, but this is what we did. We made the Saturday night service, and the whole choir came back with us to the Saturday night, and that was the only time that the church was full. And then the Sunday morning at 10 o'clock it was only very sparsely populated. But anyway, it showed that people were hungry for something that was a little bit more upbeat and a little bit more heartfelt. I went through quite a development at that time in my own faith, feeling that people were basically going to church to have a social experience, which maybe wasn't true, but that's what I felt at the time. And after a while of doing that, I was very successful, but after a while of doing that, I ended up going to Australia and actually really starting to go on my journey with my inner relationship with God. I felt I didn't need a priest, I didn't need a church. I had to go and find God somehow inside myself or in nature or wherever it was the best place to find God. So and that's what happened afterwards. And then not long after that I heard of Meher Baba, and he came in my life very powerfully. So but let's go back to the song that I started making there, and I ended up singing it also or making it for a church in Australia, in Adelaide, where they liked my song, and we put it in English. So it's in English here now, and I'll sing it how we used to sing it as I was about 21 when we did that. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed is thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. For thine is the glory and the power too, forever and ever and ever and ever. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And there was a bit of instrumental with it. So now I'm going to talk about how I did change the prayer, and I will go over the different parts and think about it, and we'll discuss it a little bit. So I'm starting with, why is God in heaven? Well, God's everywhere, really. He's in heaven, he's in hell, he's everywhere. But because he is one and there's nobody to argue with, it's the only the one without a second. So this is a state of bliss. All diversity and egos and creation sprang from that, but God always resides in her oneness. And I'm saying him because it's a manner of speaking, but also because the Creator is an active principle, which marks the male energies, whether in male or female body. Active and receptive creates the duality of creation, and also the oneness, as in yin and yang, Shiva and Shakti, creator and creation. Hallowed be thy name. Hallowed is another word for holy, and the name of God, any name of God, has the energy of the Creator in it. Holy also relates to wholeness and wellness. So any name of God, when called or meditated upon, creates wellness and holiness and wholeness. Thy kingdom come, this is the second part, I'm just going through the pieces. This is a wish, almost a command, that we want to live in his kingdom. And how can we enter there? By accepting his will. And we have to accept it out of free will, with our heart and mind. In this way we find wholeness. On earth, as it is in heaven, which could mean while we live in this body on earth as well as in heaven, where physical presence is beyond living in the earth body. There are some form of bodies which remain after death, especially as we are still in the grip of ego consciousness. This kernel of individual consciousness then can reactivate in a new earth body in time. So I fully believe in reincarnation, as I've seen it work over and over in my work that I do. The next 4 lines are all tied up together in that to achieve or receive our daily bread or sustenance, we need to be in synchronicity with the will of God. And this means forgiving others, so we may be forgiven, as there is this game of duality going on, always trying to suck us into temptation of blaming others, and only seeing fault outside of us. We can only escape this temptation, because the ego loves to blame and criticize others, by forgiving others, and with this finding forgiveness for our own shortcomings. So for me the recipe for prosperity and well-being is said in these few little lines. To achieve or receive our daily bread or sustenance, we need to be in synchronicity with the will of God, and this means forgiving others, so we may be forgiven, and not go into the temptation of blaming others. For thine is the glory and the power forever and ever and ever. This affirms the strength and power of the great Creator Spirit. There is no equal, nor can there ever be an equal. And this supersedes all other energies or spirits. Later I changed this prayer a little, since I felt uncomfortable with some things I was saying, and here's another version. Our Father, Mother God. Here I included the female aspects, because even though she represents the creation, as in Maya illusion, and God is beyond creation, I like to see the Divine Feminine included, as in Holy Mother and Holy Father. This is of course heavily tainted by my own human perception, since we take our bodies through both the male and female union. So this represents Source to me. Our Father, Mother God, who art in heaven, holy is thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will and wish be done, on earth as it is in heaven. So here I include not only God's will, but God's wish. I'm sure that Jesus already wanted the divine wish included, but rigid thinking prevented that from coming into the prayer. My master Meher Baba also put the divine will in his prayer that he gave to the world, his prayer of repentance, and he wanted to put wish into that, but it had already gone to the printers, and so again, God's wish had been ignored. So what is God's wish? God wishes us to be happy with our lot, which is often karmic, and he does not wish us to suffer. God wishes us to love others as we love ourselves, and either of those two wishes are a big teaching, which may take a lifetime to come to terms with, and probably many lifetimes. God wishes us to love God above all else, and this may seem egotistical, but it is the secret that makes us strong, honest, incorruptible. If we love God above all else, we seek to please God, and this releases all blessings on the aspirant, to the point that the lucky disciple only yearns for his divine presence, and all the other things lose significance. This was the case with St. Francis of Assisi, who became a perfect master in Europe, one of the very few, and was initiated by the presence of Jesus in the cross in his rapture, which left him permanently with the signs of the nails in his flesh, called the stigmata. So there we are with the will and the wish. I could talk about the free will, but I will do so later. For the moment I stay with this prayer and God's will. The good, the bad, all of creation, the good, the bad and the ugly, are all comprised in the will. So we cannot escape from that except by giving our life to the Master, who can interfere in karma and liberate us from the chains of these karmic events. Then, by seeking to do the divine wish, we can enter into a different state of being to please the Master, namely the state of grace. Grace also has to do with gratitude and with blessedness. We say grace, which is gratitude and blessedness. Graciousness is beauty of the spirit. A gracious person has a charm of blessedness, which they hopefully share with the other people and nature. I also want to mention here that this state of grace brings us into the all-is-one state, where nobody profits from the suffering of others, and all good things are given, received, and shared. So here we come to give us this day our daily sustenance. Since we don't live on bread alone, I changed it to sustenance, since we don't live on bread alone. We need love, acceptance, forgiveness to thrive, as well as food and physical things. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. This sentence in itself is a great meditation. There is a magical key in this that helps to open up abundance in one's life. And lead us not into temptation. Of course, God does not lead us into temptation, but the duality and the ego life do that. How cool we can feel judging another person whose inner life and suffering we know nothing about. I think the word lead may be representing allow. Don't allow us into temptation, but for one moment we feel so deliciously superior. That is the temptation. And it creates divisions and diversions of the stream of life energies. But deliver us from all evil, for thine is the glory and the power forever. I changed the last line. For thine is all grace and mercy forever and ever, because the glory and the power are the triumphant side of God, while I wish more for grace and mercy, since we are all fallible creatures that need an enormous amount of mercy for all the havoc and mayhem and mess we have actively or passively allowed to take over this planet Earth. Please God, be merciful. Show me the way. Blessings to all. Okay, that's it for today. God bless, and leave us a like or a comment.